I'm muted. Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for joining. Aaron, yeah, I'm glad you're here to make sure I can read all the comments. Thank you for joining, everybody. This is going to be really, really fun. So I think 5 weeks in a row we're now doing a live stream. So really pretty excited about that. Nick, thank you for pointing that out. So give me 1 second. Actually, I'm just going to replace the mic if there's an audio sync issue because I don't think I can actually change it on here, so I'm just going to use the other mic. And Steven, if you want to pop on, let me know. All right. So we have this. How's everyone's weekend been? Let me turn this on. And we're going to switch the microphone. So I was asking about this over the last 2 weeks, and everyone's like, oh, the audio's fine. The audio's fine. And obviously it isn't. See, this is what happens when you have competent people. All right, let me just plug this into the camera. I'll be right back. All right, and the only other thing I need to do is switch the microphone from here to Blackmagic. Okay, we're on 2. That should be that. Okay, microphone. Okay. All right, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me know how that signal is right now. Hopefully it should not be perfect. Let me know how the audio levels are because that's probably the only. It looks like it's a little hot. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. All right. Sounds a bit tiny. No, I mean, like, is it like loud or is it blowing your eardrums out? Well, the other mic is better, but there's a latency issue, and I will adjust that for next time. No, it shouldn't. It definitely should not be. It definitely should not be pulling from the other mic. Okay, now it should be better because it's right here. I moved it. Oh, wait, hold on. All right, we have like a bunch of people on here, still tiny. There we go. Is this better? The cable was unplugged from the camera. So now it should be stupid loud, if I'm not mistaken. Testing 1, 2, the quick brown fox, okay. Yes? Good. Yeah, no, so the cable wasn't plugged in. That happened. So, and actually on that note, that is how I ruined 2 videos. So the last time, okay, not stupid loud, perfect. All right, I'll just move it down 1 second. Hello, okay. Yeah, so I deeply care about audio. So when I was recording the Ruger S4 video, generally when I go out to the range and record, what I'll do is I'll have my lavalier microphone that's going to go in my pocket, and then I'm going to have a second mic, which is going to be on the camera. It's typically like a shotgun mic or something along those lines. What I ran into was, so I was actually using this. I wasn't even using my very high-end audio lav mic. Generally, I use that because there's backup recording right on it, and it works. It's a wireless microphone, and for regular videos I use it, or if I go somewhere where there isn't a bunch of people, like we would not use this for ShotShow because there's like 65,000 other people there, and it's a 2.4 gigahertz consumer grade system, so anything with a cell phone or anything else can interfere with it. But basically for the range, when there's no one else around besides Amish people, other gun owners, and cows, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. And what I ran into, so it was the very first time I was using it, so issue number one, I know it has backup audio recording. So I'm like, okay, well, even if the signal something goes bad, it's gonna backup audio record to the microphone in there. And for some stupid reason with Rode, you have to enable that feature. It's not enabled by default. The issue I ran into was the same thing as just like we had right now. I thought it was plugged in, and when I'm looking at the receiver, it gives you the levels and everything. Yeah, it's recording, all that is fine, except it wasn't plugged into the camera. And I didn't have like a backup source at that time. I decided to get lazy. I'm like, hey, no, there's not going to be anything wrong with it. And this wasn't plugged in. So I had to resort for the vast majority of the video. I had a second camera and we were using the on-camera microphone on there, which was just horrendous. And then I had to spend like 2 hours in audio editing software to try to remove a bunch of background noises and stuff just to make the video fine. So yeah, it was nuts. So thank you for pointing that out, because I mean, like on this end, I see the audio levels. I can't really see the sound quality or anything. And I just basically assumed it was fine. So there we go. So thank you everybody for joining. I see we have like a pretty big crowd right now. I see, I don't know if it's YouTube or the others, but thank you. So I just got back from, well, earlier today, I got back from the Rod of Iron Festival. So this is actually a pretty cool thing. So Car Firearms moved their headquarters to Pennsylvania. So we're not super far from here. So I ended up going to their event, and they hold a fall festival of sorts, basically for their religious church, the Church of the AR-15, which is a whole other story. And they had some gun demos and stuff like that. So I actually decided to go check it out. It was my very first time ever. They had a bunch of Second Amendment speakers there and such. So that was actually pretty cool. But beyond that, so 2 days ago, I got back from Dallas, where I attended the Vid Summit conference, which was a conference put on by Daryl Leaves and a couple other people, including Mr. Beast, for all the top YouTubers. So it was definitely very exciting, fairly inspirational, a lot of like really deep inside advice and tools and things that are going on there. So that was actually really, really cool. So there will be, along with that line, a few changes, which we'll kind of go over. Nick had a question about the event. So I had really high expectations about the Rod of Iron event. And so you can go and just Google Rod of Iron Festival and you can find it. So what most people don't realize, so there's a really cool documentary, and you guys might have heard of this. It's the Church of the AR-15. So the Church of the AR-15 is a church that was started by the son of the head of the Moonies, like the Moonie Church in Korea, the ones that do arranged marriages and stuff. So he had two sons, and they both moved out here to the United States. One of them started the Church of the AR-15, and then the other one is actually the owner of Car Firearms, Tommy Auto Ordnance. They also purchased Magnum Research, and I believe I'm missing one other brand. So they basically kind of worked it together. I will say that, so some of the speakers were awesome that we went there, and granted, I brought my 3 girls. I would say it's almost like a religious festival of sorts rather than like a gun culture type. There's a bunch of music, and there's a bunch of speakers, Second Amendment speakers. So like Josh Prince here is locally, he was speaking, and definitely a really, really cool event. But some of like where the letdown was like the vendor tents and things like that. They're actually, so aside from, oh, what's that, Nick? And actually, you got one of the training things from Mantis. So Mantis was there, But besides Mantis, I don't recall any actual other gun companies there. The vast majority of the vendors there were either like rights group or religious groups, or like vendors selling like food or like firearms or like Trump memorabilia, things like that. The two that I kind of found a little bit peculiar. So the Proud Boys had a tent there, and there was like one more group there that almost like screamed like a supremacist group. I'm like, all right, this is like a little interesting. At least like some of the memorabilia they had there definitely screamed of that. So I was a little bit surprised by that. I do know that they were taking people down to the range that they had, and I think they had like the shooting demos and such there. But because I was with my 3 young daughters, we didn't make it down there. We didn't have hearing protection. I didn't want to deal with it. Plus, it was a little cold. We did have an archery thing. So actually, my girls got to try archery. They definitely fell in love with that. They had a bouncy house. They had pumpkin painting. So that was also really, really cool there. So all told, we probably spent about an hour and a half there. Where the range and everything is located is up like towards in the mountains. So it was like very windy, very cold. It definitely felt like late October, but even though it wasn't. And yes, there was an airsoft course there as well. I think people were just like walking through and doing some stuff with that. So it was cool. All right, so there's a comment. Did I join the Church of the Iron? It's not Church of the Iron Cult. It's the Church of Iron. No, it's the Church of the. Wait, is it the Church of Iron or is it the Church of the AR-15? No, it's the Church of Iron, which then took up the AR-15. No, I respect them for like the groups, and actually like all the members showed up. What was like really interesting is actually seeing a whole bunch of like Asian and Koreans out in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. So that was definitely really interesting. However, what I will say is like I've had plenty of interactions with the employees at Car Firearms, and I don't believe there are many or any of the church members who are working at the retailers or things like that. I mean, you could basically theorize, okay, well, was the church founded in order to sell more guns? It's pretty interesting. But yeah, no, so it was I highly recommend watching. So Vice did a documentary on the Church of the AR-15. So just Google after this. After this, you're not leaving the stream. You're gonna go on and search Church of the AR-15. And actually, hold on, let me do this. So I have the camera set to 6K, so it's not zoomed in. Let me see. Can I actually do that here? I probably should learn how to properly use the Blackmagic A10 Mini. All right. So that was that. I mean, hopefully that answers on the event. All right. So let me go down my list. The first thing. So while I was in Dallas, CZ did send me an email that they finally received the gun, and then they issued my refund. What a cluster that was. So for those that are not familiar or haven't been following up with it, so the CZ600, fantastic gun. But after I bought it, which was so the gun was launched last January for ShotShow. Did a video on that. They overpromised a lot of features. Then they got it delayed for like 3 or 4 months. Then they finally released it, and then they had a massive recall on it that my dealers were frantically calling me, trying to get the gun back. Basically, as it turned out, so one of the things that they promised was a switch barrel system. You'd be able to go out there and buy a replacement bolt head and a replacement barrel, and 3 screws. You can quickly swap it in at under $1,000. This is amazing, and it would be a great opportunity, especially because the gun shoots sub half MOA all day long with most factory ammo. It's that good of a gun. But basically, it was a mandatory recall. So then they finally, and because basically the way that they'd be fixing the issue, so what they found is that it is possible to improperly put the barrel in, and the gun can go bang and go kaboom because the barrel isn't all the way in. So their fix is to permanently fix the barrel in place, and thereby goes the primary reason for anybody to consider purchasing that rifle. So one of the things CZ did was they gave people option of returning the rifle and getting it permanently attached in place. Or if you were pissed off and you weren't satisfied with that solution, you can sell the rifle back to them and they would give you your money back. So apparently they cut me out a check. And I will be buying a new one as soon as they send me a check back. So the reason why is, so when the gun was launched, it had an MSRP of 700 and change. And in order to have one for the channel, because I tried getting one from CZ and CZ doesn't send me shit. Dogs barking, children yapping. So in order to have one for the channel, because I did think it was definitely that good of a gun, I went out to my local dealer. I paid the full MSRP price on there. But since then, that gun now you can find it for under $500. And because CZ is so incompetent when it comes to marketing or launching the product, they have a $100 mail-in rebate. So you can literally get that gun for around $400. And for $400, I think it's, for what it is, it's an amazing gun, and it'll smoke any Savage, any Ruger American, or anything else along those lines. So, yeah. So, yeah. So that's on the CZ. I'm sorry, I'm going through the comments. Yeah, so it has a switchable barrel system. Michael, I did 3 videos on that before, and then I have one video discussing this in more detail with the gun immediately before I sent it off. So it is on YouTube right now, but it's not public yet. I'm waiting for them to do the manual review on the monetization. So it should be out, I'm hoping, later tonight. If not tonight, then it'll be out tomorrow. I'm assuming we're going to be able to. Actually, let me take a look at this, if we can do it now. I haven't gotten an email yet, but usually... Okay, so we still haven't reviewed it yet. So that video, as soon as they review it and they have monetization, actually, I will make it available to members right now. So if you're a channel member, you'll be able to see it, and you can hit join button right about there. And you help support the channel, and you will have access to that, plus some other member-only videos, and all the discounts to a couple of really, really cool members. So for the price, it's going to be a really good gun. Sanctuary Church now. Okay, we went by Rod of Iron Ministers previously. So, okay, I guess we changed their name. Okay. Been an archery tech. Very cool. Ryan, we'll have to talk about that. All right, so moving on from that. So Bit Summit. A couple of things that I'm basically realizing is that I have to take the channel a little bit more seriously instead of like trying to go all over the place. So before getting onto the newer video ideas and such, I have probably about 30 videos or so that we've already recorded and edited. Ordinarily, I take my sweet time. I want to make sure that the editing and everything on there is great. But one of the things I'm going to be doing is I just want to get the videos out there. So I'm sorry. I will probably cut back a little bit on the video editing quality for these coming videos, just in order to get that footage out there. Because I mean, I have terabytes of videos that were recorded, and I don't want to just hit delete on them. I'd rather it get out there than not. So I'll probably be getting another editor and like just basically have like a basic edit of the stuff and get it out there. And then I would say probably starting beginning of the year, we're going to have like the new videos, and those are going to be really good. One of the things we're going to be playing with a little bit is also possibly we're going to be playing with a little bit of format changes. So the type of videos and everything that we're going to be doing. Hello from Brazil. That is awesome. So one of the things, this is actually the first time you're on here. One of the things I'll usually do is I go through the stuff I have, and then I kind of go back and address a lot of the questions and answers. I really do appreciate it. But sometimes the comments do get lost. I mean, it's not, we do have people coming and going, and I do have pop-ups for people who are members and such, so I definitely address those questions ahead of time. So, but which video did you find us for? I'm definitely interested in this. I do love Brazil. I enjoyed my time in Brazil. I'm guessing a tourist video. All right, so that's on the video side. Along the same lines, Chris, thank you for the super chat. Good way to kill some time on a Sunday evening before a crash. Chris, isn't your live stream usually right around this time on a Sunday night too? I really felt bad that I wasn't able to join yours or join yours for a couple of minutes before I have to hop on mine and do this one. Definitely appreciate it. If you're new here, definitely check out Chris's channel as well. He does also have a really cool podcast where so he actually has a co-host on there as well. If you do rimfire type shooting, he's definitely the guy to go to as well, and just an overall really awesome person. And yes, absolutely. TriggerCon is going to be on the list for 2024. Along the same lines, actually, here's a call out for help. So I have like these massive plans for what we want to do. And I have a special project that I want to take care of while we're going to be at ShotShow. And I thought, so generally from this year, we had a team of, I would say, 4 core people. So it was myself, it was Card Shark, who definitely, the guy with an awesome stash that was in a couple of our videos. And we had a pair of videographers there with us helping. Beyond that, I wanted to have one more person, 1 or 2 more people for a particular project. However, one of the videographers has a commitment already and they can't join. So I need, if you're interested in going to ShotShow and can stand behind a camera or have any type of video skills or anything, definitely reach out through Discord or whatnot, and I can would gladly appreciate that. And Chris, thank you again for the super chat, my brother. Awesome. All right. So ShotShow, content focus. So along the same lines for ShotShow, Aaron, you have your own stuff. I don't want to. We're doing our own thing, and we're going to have an announcement on that soon as we work out the details. But the content, so I will say, I am still blown away. So for those not familiar, Anarchy Outdoors is a online retailer. They have a bunch of really awesome accessories that they manufacture themselves, and other good products from other manufacturers that they retail. Anything for long guns, muzzle loaders, a lot of handgun stuff now. So if you want to John Wick your Glock, you can definitely find the parts from Anarchy Outdoors. Earlier last year, I went up to Utah. We did a number of videos about rifles, mostly precision rimfire stuff, Ruger stuff, Tika stuff. And those videos, like, I mean, they're like 50-minute long videos. They're doing insanely well. So obviously you guys love the expertise that Aaron has. So we're going to be working on a particular project, on a longer term project, which is absolutely going to be super cool. So we just got to work out the details on that. But it's going to be fun. And obviously check out Anarchy Outdoors for all your needs. And if you're a gun tuber here, so there are some gun tubers here, reach out to Aaron as well to have his products on your channel. All right, so content focus for ShotShow. One of the things that we did last year was we kind of tried to focus on doing like full featured booth tours of the stuff that's going on. The problem that we kind of ran into is because the quality focus was so high that it was much more difficult in order to kind of get the videos out there. Now, my real goal was really to, like, my ultimate goal, if I had the ultimate budget and we can do everything we wanted to do, would be to actually do live coverage straight from the show. Unfortunately, the internet sucks there really bad. Beyond that, by focusing on the live coverage, we wouldn't be able to really do as much long form videos. And it would literally just be a pain in the butt in order to do a bunch of live coverage there. So we primarily focus on the videos. One of the things we're going to do, so because I have the new crack phone and one of my favorite companies is DaVinci Resolve Blackmagic, they have a couple of really cool new apps that we can use with this. So my goal really is going to be, at least for one of the teams, is we're going to have a bunch of shorter booth tours and videos that we're going to release during the show or possibly even the same day. So we're going to have that. And then for certain booths where it's truly something more in depth, we're going to have a longer form video as well. So that is the plan as of right now for ShotShow. And this way, you're also not necessarily going to be like, okay, well, why am I watching ShotShow videos like 5 months later? Now, in some cases, you're watching those ShotShow videos 5 months later because those guns never came out. But in other cases, okay, like, well, you're doing a booth tour video when the actual product was already out there. And if there wasn't like anything in depth for that content, like, okay, well, does it really make sense? Now, I do still have a bunch of those videos and I am going to release them out just because I feel guilty just hitting delete on them. But we're going to get them out there. But going forward for January, like we'll have like January for like new gun coverage and such. And honestly, because we're heading into the end of the year, I'm already starting to expect phone calls from Ruger and Taurus of new guns that are going to be coming out to be released at ShotShow that we're going to have to play with as well. So that's going to be that. So I do, if you want to help out, if you want to go to ShotShow, definitely reach out to me. And then one of the things I'm actually working on right now is I'm waiting for one company in particular. We're going to have our own private media event. It looks like immediately after ShotShow. So we're going to have, my goal is to have, let's say, about 5 or 6 different companies that are non-competitive and very complementary. And we can have both media, and if you're a dealer or you just person, if you're in the Las Vegas area, you'll be able to come out and actually shoot this yourself. What it's hanging up on right now is I have like 3 or 4 commitments from a number of companies who are absolutely interested in doing this. There is one gun company in particular in which this is going to be based around, which would also be providing the majority of the funding for this venture. So I'm trying to see if, as long as they can commit to it, we can get everything else just plugged in place. And it looks like it's going to be immediately the Saturday after. So if you do want to come out to Vegas anyway, or you're in the Vegas area and you want to do something really, really cool, absolutely come out for that. So that's going to be awesome. All right. Wow. We're like going right through this. All right. So here's actually what I wanted to discuss. Actually, before we get into that, let me actually go for some of the questions and then we'll go through the bigger ones. Okay, so it's every other Sunday. So this week it is off. I will say, like, I popped on a few of yours, and I definitely enjoyed them. Now, you guys also were really, really cool with doing the new coverage on the new EAA handgun, which is super awesome. 6.5 Grendel is a fantastic cartridge. 6 Arc is definitely a better cartridge, but 6.5 Grendel, I think, well, let me rephrase that. 6 Arc is a much more efficient and effective cartridge, but 6.5 Grendel right now is still going to be the better cartridge to go with before 6 Arc establishes itself in that regard. And what I'll say, so actually Ryan was here. I mean, I was really blown away. We had our Ruger American and 6.5 Grendel stock barreled action, except it was with a Timney trigger and in a Sharps Brothers chassis, my goal was to hit 1,000 yards with it. We hit 1,000 and 1,200 and 1,300 and 1,400 and 1,500 yards too. So that was actually very, very impressive what that cartridge can do. And you do have more factory ammo available with it. The interesting part is before the sanctions on Russia, there was a bunch of really good Wolf branded 6.5 Grundle ammo, and it shot fairly well. So whether you wanted to just to plink away or have match ammo or hunting ammo, you had a lot of those choices. With 6 ARC, you're still far more limited, even though it is a more efficient cartridge. It is far more limited, and you only have ammo choices from Hornady right now. And even kind of like with the loads, you have brass issues, I would say. But the biggest thing in particular with 6 ARC is that there's only, so with 6 ARC, you kind of have 2 different specs. So you have the SAMI spec, which is for your gas guns, but if you're shooting it out of a bolt gun, you can definitely push the pressures higher. And Hornady has published data for it, but there's no factory load that you can buy for it. So even though it's really, really cool out of like a mini action and how it does have a bunch of mini action 6mm arcs, if you're buying hand-loaded ammo, you're leaving quite a bit of performance on the table still. So that's kind of like the only thing with it. And I hope that we do see more with it. Cool. And Ryan, you said you had a video coming out today, right? Don't make me take videos, but I would never do that, Nick. I would never leave you by yourself. I would assign one of the other minions to you, even if you had no experience. No, but we're definitely going to get you somebody who's going to be competent. The Grendel and the Bushmaster. Which Bushmaster? 450 Bushy? Yeah, that would definitely take a different buffer weight. Nice. Yeah. And one of the things, I mean, Aaron definitely, you spelled it Aaron. It's Aaron, Americanized Aaron. I don't think Utah spells Aaron differently. So one of the things, for channel members, we do have special discounts, and Anarchy Outdoors gives a special discount to supporting channel members of SlavGuns. So when you become a channel member, we have a spreadsheet that you can click onto on the members only tab, and that'll take you to the sheet, and there's a coupon code just for members. And that's a very good discount, especially if you're going to be shopping for anything. Anarchy had really good light brakes. Need thicker one for my 7 PRC. Aaron, I think, sells quite a few brakes. We're going to be primarily, okay. Very, very nice. Ryan, did you get our H Ryan? Did you get this Ryan? Did you get your new computer yet or no? And yes, Nick, what would I do without you? Okay. Yay, an actual question. What's the most important thing you want to do with the channel content? Love it. So the biggest thing kind of like I learned is that I take a lot of things for granted. A lot of the content, I mean, sometimes I guess like with more experienced shooters, or for example, like when I have a conversation with Aaron, like we kind of like, or when you have a conversation with somebody who's experienced in a particular topic, it almost like tends to get lost in the woods, like you get lost in the details, and you take for granted what the vast majority of the shooters and people who are watching the content are actually wondering, asking, or discussing in particular. So take, for instance, okay, So take, for instance, okay, we might be talking about like a particular chassis or a particular stock and talking about all the features or what it does, but we don't actually take the time to discuss, well, why is this actually critical, or putting it in a way that would get somebody who's newer to shooting more involved. So for instance, kind of like one of the videos I do have planned for this is we're going to take myself, an experienced shooter, and a new shooter, and we're going to take a stock barreled action gun, and we're going to try different components and upgrades to see what type of an impact it's really going to have. The other thing is looking at, let's say, for example, like we might be talking about a $5,000 high-end precision rifle, but the vast majority of the people are not going to be buying those type of guns. But they would want to know, hey, what if I buy, like, if I go to Walmart and I buy a rifle with a scope combination package? Well, what can you do with that? What's actually achievable with it? Things like that. Doing more comparison type videos as well, or doing like ranking type videos that I know people are looking for. So let's say, for example, like taking our CZ600 again, I can talk in depth about, I mean, I can give you a 30-minute video why I think it's a fantastic gun. And at the same time, I've done 2 videos why the CZ600 commercially is a failure. However, unless you're specifically looking for that CZ600, you're not going to find those videos really of interest. What somebody might find a video of interest is, hey, I have $1,000 budget. What rifles should I be looking at for this goal or that goal? Or even, let's say, for example, like, okay, I have a scope here. So this is the Athlon Kronos BTR Gen 2. If you're already looking for content on there, that's all fine and dandy. But even if, let's say, for example, if this is the best thing for you, unless you're looking for it in particular, you're not really going to be diving deep into the woods for it. However, there are going to be a lot more people who might be looking at, hey, I just discovered that I need a first focal plane reticle rifle scope. Give me a video with the top down as to, number one, why do I need it? And why, or like what scopes in that price point I should be considering. And it's like stuff that I really wanted to do, but sometimes it's a little bit more, let's put an example. On one hand, I might find the topping, I might find that topic sophomoric or like just very elementary. And well, like I said, it's super, super duper cool to dive into the details on something. But I definitely know that we need to do at least a bunch more of those videos. So I'm not necessarily going to say we're going to completely reinvent things, but just kind of like changing the lineup. So instead of just like one particular thing on the menu, it's going to be something for everyone. So let's say, for example, like, and really the goal of it is we're going to have, let's say, 2 to 3 videos per week. So there's definitely going to be a live stream. We're going to do a regular live stream and then some. Possibly it might be 2 live streams with a different focus, and it's definitely going to be turned into a podcast. And kind of like even the goal with the live stream is going to be, let's say, for example, if we're doing a live stream, kind of how I already have an agenda in here, but we'll be able to do, let's say, cut it up into, let's say, some shorter segments answering your common questions in particular, and stuff that would be standalone worthy as it is. The other thing is, and one of the things we've done in the past is we did the live stream immediately before or after a video premiere, so that we're there to actually answer a lot of your questions and things like that. So we're going to be doing more of that. But one of the surprising things in particular is, like I said, I love longer range stuff. I love precision rifle shooting. We can talk in depth on a bunch of that stuff, but the vast majority of the people are going to be buying a regular AR or a regular hunting rifle. I mean, if you look at, for example, like the most popular viewed content on this channel, it's your Savage Axis. Pretty much anything Taurus that I touch has hundreds of thousands of views. The Ruger PC Carbine, a bunch of those types. So let's say, for example, if you're doing like a bunch of videos on precision long-range rifles, things like that, and then I get a phone call from Ruger basically says, hey, we got this new handgun coming out, and I released that video, it's kind of like Number one, it's a little bit of a surprise to the people who watch the channel, but on the other hand, it also freaks out their Google algorithm, which was like, okay, I thought your channel was all about precision rifles, and now all of a sudden you're doing a handgun thing. So there'll definitely be both type of content. So we'll have the live stream, we'll have like one more broader, let's say, for example, a handgun or rifle, like a particular type rifle review. And then there's going to be a different like educational type video. So for example, I already have a couple filmed on, let's say, for example, what's the best way of sighting in a rifle without wasting a ton of money and ammo, or more educational things. Okay, like it's all cool and dandy to talk about and do a review on the $2,000 scope. But the bigger question is, well, at what point should you consider this type of scope? Or are you actually wasting money at that point? Like I said, for me, I truly, and if you guys have been around on the channel for a while, you're going to find that there's going to be two primary differences with what we do versus what a lot of other channels do. And that is, number one, on our reviews, within the first 60 seconds, you see a disclosure slide. So the pros, the cons, my opinion, and the nature of the relationship, and whether the product was sent to me for free or whatnot. We're supposed to disclose that. Vast majority of the people don't. And that's simply for, if you're watching the video, I don't want you to be wondering, hey, was this guy paid by a company to say certain things or not? I mean, take, for instance, the Springfield 2020 rimfire. The Springfield Shill Army, or basically the people who launched the gun, all basically swore, wow, this gun is super accurate and it's a fantastic gun. And it did have some innovative features. I tried getting one. They didn't reach back out to me. But myself, Pursuit of Accuracy, Alex, Affordable Optics Rifle Reviews, a couple of others, we bought the gun and it can't shoot for shit. So kind of to avoid that, because I mean, we do get a lot of the guns that come onto the channel are sent to us by the manufacturer, sometimes on loan, sometimes for keeps. So I believe that as long as it present the facts, you have the facts, and you can you should still consume the content, but you should be able to know whether it exists or not, like in what light to take it, and is it possibly, or how jaded it is, or let's say how biased it is. Because I think everyone, whether you spend your own money or not, or you got paid to say something, it's all biased. It just has a different type of bias. And I think if you consume, I don't want you to just watch this channel. I want you, like if I'm doing a product review on something, watch everybody who has it, but just know from what perspective they're coming in at, in order to paint a more complete picture. So that's number one. I always disclose on the review videos. Number two is, when I look at a product, I don't look at it from the perspective of, is this good or is this bad? I will present the facts, but my goal for whatever the product is to give you, the viewers, the information that you need in order for you to be able to decide, hey, is this appropriate for me or not? So for instance, is a SIG P365 a better gun than a Ruger LCP or a Ruger Max 9 or a Taurus G2C, G3C, GX4? In some degrees, yes. In other degrees, no. But here's the kicker. Some people might have a SIG budget. Other people might have a Taurus budget. And the best quote I've actually heard on this was, a Taurus on a nightstand is much better than a SIG on layaway. So if you see a video on this channel, it's truly because the product serves a purpose. It's a decent enough product. It goes bang the vast majority of the time. And it's about finding for whom it is going to be an appropriate product. It's not about, I'm not going to get something that's just going to be and just shit on it just without a purpose. I mean, some people do it for the views. I'm like, okay, well, there's other ways of generating the views. I don't necessarily need to shit on the product. If it's a truly bad product, And if it's, let's say, for example, if it was something that was sent to me and I didn't spend my own money on it, I generally, what I tell the companies is, go ahead and send me the product. If it's good, I'll do a video on it. If I have an issue with it, I will, before I publish the video, I will come back to you, present the issue, and identify whether it's an actual issue or it's an issue with me as the user or something that I'm missing. And if it is an issue, I will give the company the opportunity to address the issue. But in the video, I'm not going to hide the fact that there was an issue, but it was addressed. So for instance, like the best case of that was the Taurus GX4. They sent me the gun and a bunch of other reviewers. The rear sights were halfway off the gun. And I'm like, WTF. And it's basically because we use machines in order to align the rear sight. And obviously, at least 2 or 3 people, the person who picked up the gun and the person who put it into the packaging, didn't think there's anything wrong with it. They did send me a new slide with the sights properly in place. I did use it with that. I did put it in the video that there was an issue, but obviously they addressed it. And so that's that. So I'm not going to hide the issues, but if it's a truly bad product, I'm just going to be like, I don't think it's going to serve anyone any purpose if I do a video on it, because I'm not going to shit on it just for shits and giggles. And part of the reason why I say that in particular is, I mean, one of the things that people don't realize is the firearms industry is actually quite small. I mean, yes, we do have some bigger companies, but the largest publicly traded gun company, so Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Vista Outdoors, a number of years ago, I don't recall the exact market cap right now, but a number of years ago, if you had $1.5 billion, you could have bought out all 3. So for somebody like Michael Bloomberg or anybody else like that, if they really want to shut down the gun industry, it doesn't take a lot of money. So I don't believe in going out of my way to hurt the gun industry on purpose, unless it's like something, let's put it this way. I'm not going to blame somebody's incompetence. So for example, like if somebody makes something and it's a shitty product, okay, that you're just being incompetent in that regard. It's a different story if, let's say, for example, we're either willfully incompetent or they have a shitty product and they put it out there knowing it's a shitty product and they just really want to take advantage of it. So for example, kind of like the last one I can kind of think of is, let's say, for example, that Hudson gun, which is nowhere around. And I almost kind of feel a little bit about some of the forced reset triggers because, or like even like the pistol braces. Like SBA as a company as a whole, like they got their first brace approved by the FBI, by the ATF, and they got a letter on that. However, they came out with 5 or 6 different products afterwards, and they marketed as, hey, it's the only brace that was that has an approval. It's like it's approved by the ATF, but that's not true. And they purposely knew that because after all of this was being shut down, they said, look, here's our ATF approval letter for the very first brace, not the SBA 2, 3, 4, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't like that. And basically, I mean, I didn't do anything, like I didn't go out of my way to do a video to bash that type of stuff, but like I just find that a little bit inexcusable. And let's say, for example, if there's a company in particular that I was dealing with and I found out that they're doing something like that bad on purpose, I would definitely make a video on that. However, let's say, for example, like if somebody went out of their way to make a really, really, like they went out of their way to make a good product, but it's not a good product, and I don't think that there's an audience for whom it is appropriate, I'm just not going to do a video on it. So hopefully that kind of gives you the information, that gives you a little bit more insights into that. 6.5 Dasher and AR-15, that could be interesting. Ryan, I might have somebody who might be interested in sharing the room with you? Ooh, now if I had a guess, this would be awesome. Who's the best prefit barrel maker? Are we talking, well, I'm assuming you're not talking about ARs. I'm assuming we're talking about precision rifles. We'll go back to that one. I said my phone still boom is the one that was wanting another computer. There's no. Okay. Aaron, we're talking about muzzle brakes. Okay, it was answered. Yep. Okay, so I'm actually going to call out Chris on this again. 100% a valid point, taking things for granted. You have heard me say the word context a lot. Less educated, less experienced needs. Yep. And I will say, if you're a gun tuber or anybody who is a content creator, period, you absolutely need to subscribe to Chris's channel and get to know him. He is very, I would say he's hooked up and influential in the community, but he's also like very smart about these type of things. And a lot of the thoughts and quite a few successes that I had is because of the conversations I've had with Chris. Just get any computer. I got this Legion laptop, which is perfectly fine. I would say actually look for Black Friday sales. It should be coming up very soon. Or go to Walmart and look at their clearance gaming laptops. Anything that's pretty much a gaming laptop is going to be just fine for editing your videos. I would say the alternative is if you have like an iPad Pro, those will actually be fine to handle as well. I address those. Abso-freaking-lutely not. Bear balls have no place on this channel or anywhere near my mouth. Chris, he'll give you the email or just reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with Aaron. So right kind of like on this topic, this is actually like one of those interesting things as well. It's truly about like what the vast majority of the people are looking for. And even kind of let's say, for example, like if we're talking, okay, if you deeply care about gun rights, what's the best way of ensuring them? Some people will basically say, hey, let's donate money, let's fight the political battles, let's make enemies, and let's make mockery of like anti-gunners and point out their stupidity. But in my opinion, all really that it does, it's like it's two people digging a deeper hole for each other, and like you're just going down. It doesn't actually do anything. My personal belief, especially when it comes to gun rights and kind of like the premise of the channel as well, is, and why I don't discuss gun politics. I truly believe at heart that the best way of ensuring gun rights is by putting firearms into as many people's hands as possible. I haven't met a person yet, a brand new shooter or somebody who's never touched a gun, that I have taken out to the range, let them shoot a few rounds. I've never had anybody that basically said, oh, wow, this is icky. I never wanted to do it again. So the people who are like, if we just basically go down the rabbit hole of fighting for the minutia, or like, okay, well, what is the intent, or like, well, the Second Amendment is in the Constitution, and wow, hold on, my throat. So if we just keep going down the thou shall not be infringed route, it's not solving anything. It's not creating new gun owners. I mean, it's only, like, say, for example, like if you have a conversation with somebody and you basically prove that the other person is wrong, it's not going to make the other person instantly become a gun owner or believe in gun rights. They're just basically going to come off, okay, fine, he has a point, but I still believe that gun rights should be limited and we should change the Constitution. It's only once you actually take them out to the range and show them and they experience it themselves that they're going to be more open to it. And kind of like, so with the channel, it's like one of my things, and we had this one of the discussions. So I'm on a Discord server where there's this young whippersnapper, and maybe if he's watching, and like there's always like this conversation about like, oh, like you post pictures of guns and this and that. I'm like, okay, well, to me, it's not about the firearm, because if you have enough money, you can buy any of those guns anyway. It doesn't impress me. What impresses me is people's abilities with the gun. If you want to be deeply involved with the firearms world and you truly want to be, or you call yourself an enthusiast, then you should be open to trying out various disciplines. So, for instance, like when I started shooting, it was primarily with handguns. And I would say probably one of the best things that could have possibly happened to me was seriously hurting my wrist and not being able to shoot as much handguns as I can, because it was because of that that I dove into the rifle world as much as I did. It was also why I definitely appreciate shotgun shooting, and anything related to firearms, I'm absolutely open to being involved with. And I mean, that's how I truly believe that you're an enthusiast of firearms, by being able to try the different various disciplines. And it's only by trying those things that you can definitely appreciate it. So one of the stories that I give is, so I mean, I lived in New Jersey for the vast majority of my life. So I was born in the former Ukraine, well, former Soviet Union, which, Ukraine. I immigrated here back in 1991 when I was 9 years old, and ever since then, we basically lived in New Jersey up until 5 years ago. So it's 26 years in New Jersey that we spent, until I moved to Pennsylvania, and it's a completely different gun culture and gun liberty state. And the first time I shot a machine gun, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And like the SBR and the suppressor, like now it's like someone's having a machine gun shoot. Okay, yeah, big whoop. It's just a big waste of ammo. To me, what I find of interest is how people can use those guns to push their abilities. So dumping 100 rounds at a target 10 yards in front of you really, really fast. Okay, yeah, it's cool for a little bit until you realize how much money you wasted on ammo. However, seeing somebody shoot a golf ball from 1,000 yards away is freaking impressive. Or like, even for example, like, I mean, one of the big things that we're talking about is rimfire shooting, and Aaron can also kind of talk on this as well. So when I was a USPSA or a handgun shooter, and somebody told me, hey, let's go shoot 22s, I thought anything beyond 50 yards was just like ridiculous. And at 100 yards, like, yeah, it's pointless. So the fact that I now generally shoot rimfire guns at 300 yards, I mean, like, that's the cool part. I mean, like, that's pretty much my norm right now. It takes quite a bit of skill, but here's the thing though, like, you can do it. Anybody can do it when they apply themselves. But the biggest thing was shooting. We were at an event out in Utah, and we were shooting 670 yards with a Ruger Precision rimfire. Granted, it had a proof research barrel, but that is like stupid cool, because I mean, it really absolutely pushes your skills as the shooter, and it also pushes the accuracy and precision of a firearm and ammunition in order to be that accurate out that far. So it's almost kind of like, okay, shooting 1,000 yards, yeah, okay, like with a center fire, it's doable. I mean, here's the thing: you can go out there, you can go to Walmart, you can buy a gun, factory ammo, and you can shoot 1,000 yards with a Walmart $250 gun. Anybody can do it, especially if you have like a modern caliber like 6.5 Creedmoor. It's stupid easy, but most people don't realize that. But it's like it's pushing the limits. I mean, that's really what it's about. So it's either shooting as small of a hole as you can at close distances, or shooting as far as you can to the point where your abilities as the shooter is just one component of it. And you have environmentals, you have the need for the gun to maintain its accuracy, and you need to have the ammo that is going to be consistent. Like, that is exciting. That is a challenge. Blowing a bunch of rounds really, really quickly, okay, it might be exciting, but like, I don't think there's any skill or there's any effort or anything else along those lines. And the goal for all of this is basically, it's kind of to encourage people to push themselves as a shooter, whether it's going to be in a gun game or just even your personal best. So, okay. Great question. I'm glad you brought this up. So, funny story along those lines, and Nick will basically vouch for this. One of the video ideas that I had was, well, so here's the thing. So like, Nick tells me, hey, you should come over. And so there's a company called MKS, and they are the importer and owner or distributor of Barnell Ammunition, High Point Firearms, and there's one more, like one of these like older brands that they took over. It'll come to me. And I'm out there, and like, he's like, oh, hey, look, it's somebody from Barnell. I'm like, great. Well, you know what? Like, one of the ideas that I basically had for video is we're going to take, and one of the things we're looking for ammo for is we're going to take a High Point, fill it with tannerite, and put it 1,000 yards away, and we're going to try to shoot it and blow it up. And then the facepalm came to me when I realized that the person I was talking to was the president owner of MKS. And not only, and what we're asking him to do is to use his ammo to blow up his gun. Yeah, that was like a facepalm moment 2 years ago, ShotShow. But it's the point of High Point. So generally what I would say is a lot of the High Points right now, the reliability on them is going to be pretty good. The thing you have to consider is that there's a bunch of people out there who cannot put together more than $200 for a handgun. The biggest, I would say, shock came to me. So when I lived in New Jersey, or let's say, for example, you're in California, or I would say even like in the Northeast or anywhere else around more money, we would go to a gun store and people would wait and line up, let's say, for example, for a SIG or something like that. And we would almost like look down at a Taurus or a Ruger. And I kind of I rubbed some of the wrong people the wrong way when I published an article about Ruger, like Ruger is boring, and I have yet to see anybody who lined up for a new Ruger release. And then I was talking to the CFO of Ruger, had a private event, and he was like, we were in Texas, and like we popped by a gun store. And we showed the stats, and it was like the most common gun a couple of years ago was the Ruger LCP, followed by the Taurus G2C. The vast majority of Americans, their average, while in New Jersey or Northeast Pennsylvania or California, your average gun purchase is going to be a $500 Glock or SIG, etc. In the vast majority of America, your average gun purchase is going to be $250 to $300, and that's going to be a lot of used Tauruses, a lot of used guns, and there are still a bunch of companies. And look at why does SCCI sell a bunch of guns? Is there are people out there who, let's put this way, the vast majority of Americans don't have $1,000 in case of an emergency, but yet a lot of those people do need a gun in order to defend themselves. And a High Point fits that particular notion. Let's put it this way. A High Point is still going to go bang the vast majority of the time. It is not the best fit and finish, but it is generally reliable. And especially if you're looking at their carbines. But even on the handgun side, I mean, let's put it this way. It's been a little bit whacked over the last couple of years when with all the prices, when they went up, and guns that used to sell for about $150 were now selling for $300. But as that's coming back down to reality, there is definitely a price point for a used, or let's say, for example, for a new gun for under $200. And a lot of the bigger manufacturers can't hit that price point. And even though there's a bunch of those guns that are available overseas, by the time that you import them in and you go for a two-tier distribution system, there isn't enough money left there. So that's why most of your Turkish-made guns, even though in reality they're like $50 to $100 guns, by the time they come here, they're in essence $300 to $400 guns. So High Point serves that particular market. Now, if somebody has $150, I would ask, hey, can you save an extra $100? And for $250, you can get a Taurus G2C, Taurus G3C, or a used Ruger Security 9 or something along those lines. But if they can't, then I would say, yeah, you know what, just get a High Point. So great question, Chris. So the goal of that is we are going to format the live stream and then repurpose that into a podcast. And the really cool part about this, so one of the ways when I went to the conference there, I discovered a number of AI tools that are absolutely going to make that super easy and super possible. And here's the thing, that video did really good amount of views. So I mean that's a great point. I mean, I definitely don't think I'm an elitist because you've never seen a Zero Compromise Optics or a Schmidt and Bender. I'm definitely not Dark Lord of Optics, or like even for example, like Alex sometimes does have a tendency to go into a lot of the higher end stuff. I do try to keep it at a reasonable price point. And that's why we do have, this is actually kind of like one of the reasons why I'm really fascinated about taking, instead of going out there and buying a custom gun, taking a regular gun and seeing what we can upgrade with that. I do find that of interest. And especially when you consider, let's say, for example, a Ruger Precision Rifle is the same action as the Ruger American. The difference is, I mean, there is a little bit more nuanced difference in it. But let's say, for example, like if you take a Savage 110, it's the same barreled action, except it comes in a variety of different stocks and triggers. So the Savage Elite Precision is generally the same thing as a Savage 110 Tactical. The difference is the stock and the chassis and all of that type of stuff. Yes. I don't recall what that was about. I'm not sure if we're going to be buying a good one. Okay, so kind of going back, I thought I kind of addressed this. So would I not review a really bad product? And I guess we can kind of say the same thing. So, okay, this is, I guess, kind of the reason why I went out with my own money and purchased a Springfield 2020 rimfire, just to see. So if the gun was purely bad and everyone basically assumed that it's bad and garbage and all of that stuff, I probably wouldn't waste my time with it. The reason why I purchased the Springfield 2020 is because I was really curious, because it was a very controversial and very polarizing gun. On one hand, you either had people who were screaming, this is an amazing gun. And on the other hand, you had basically people saying, I mean, like, so even like Josh went out of his way, he put on a barrel tuner, a $2,000 scope, and upgraded the trigger, and it still couldn't shoot. So in cases like that, I was like purely interested into like, hey, what's going on? And I have a video already recorded on there, and I almost basically, so the first ammo I shot with it was truly a range impressions video I shot with it. I took CCI standard velocity ammo, I put it down, and the first 5 rounds did a decent group. I'm like, okay, Josh must be smoking something because this gun actually shoots fine. And then I went to match grade ammo, and the groups just doubled up in size. So I'm like, okay, I think I know basically what's going on here. So that's really kind of what it is. So I would say, like, would I review a bad product? I'm not going to say that I'm not going to review it. What I will basically qualify is if, let's say, for example, if a company reaches out to me and says, hey, we want you to do a video. And let's say, for example, like, instead of just taking money and lying about it, I'd rather just basically say, hey, you know what? I don't think it's a good product, and it's not going to help anybody if I do this. And that's why I wouldn't do it in that case. But if I'm spending my own money, then yeah, I'm not opposed to it. But in any case, I'm not going to go out of my way to trash a product in order to generate more views, because at that point, I don't think it's helping anybody besides myself. And you're right. So, I mean, like, it's all about having an honest review. I don't believe in sugarcoating it. And that is why for all of the videos, even though, say, for example, like guns that are sent to me, I don't give final approval or anything to any of these companies. So no one basically has the right of final approval on a video. So what most people don't realize, let's say, for example, like if you're taking money or you are doing a video for a company, if there's any money involved, or let's say, for example, if they're giving you free product, more often than not, well, actually, let me rephrase that. If somebody's sending you free product for keeps, more often than not, the company will try to put something in there that they want, before you release the video, they want to see the video beforehand. If there's any money involved, and a lot of the big YouTubers, they absolutely accept money. So not only are they getting the product, but they're also getting a check to go along with that. Sometimes it's a very sizable check, more than what most people make in a year. And in those cases, the vast majority of the time, there's a line in there that so not only will you get a page that says media brief that tells you what points they want you to cover, and that is why you watch a bunch of the launch videos and you have almost similar lines verbatim. A lot of those videos, when there's money involved, the vast majority of them, the company has to approve before you release the video. So, and companies are supposed to, people are supposed to disclose that, but they don't. So when you see a launch video for a product, I guess I'm jaded to the point that, like, if it's a glowing review, I don't expect any bad reviews. But it's like, if it's a glowing review and no one kind of, let's for example, if somebody has a glowing review and they disclose, hey, you know what, this video was sponsored by, or this video was paid for by the company, and we accepted, not only did we get the gun for free, but we also got money for it, I can look at it, but I can look at it from the perspective, okay, well, let me see kind of how it shoots. Let me see, I'm looking at it from the perspective of how does it operate, and purely the facts. And I don't put much value in the opinion of the person who is doing the video, because I know that that opinion is largely influenced by the check that they received. Versus, you can also basically make the same case on the opposite end, when I know that somebody went out and they spent their own money on it. I would say a lot of the gun tubers, they are not above it to basically say, yeah, you know what, I spent my own money on it and it's garbage. But if, let's say, for example, it is someone newer, or someone who doesn't have a lot of firearms, or for somebody who spent a lot of their time saving in order to purchase this, even if it's a bad product, they're not going to necessarily want to admit it, because they would think that they made a bad choice and they're less of a person as a result of it. So, I mean, those are kind of jaded in that regard as well. So, I mean, purely, like, if somebody presents the nature of the relationship and everyone has full disclosure over exactly how they should be looking at it, I think everybody can kind of make up their mind. What rubbed me the wrong way a lot of the times is when we had the SIG P320 drop safe fiasco. some companies that I dealt with, there were some videos on those guns that came out that there were YouTubers who took a perfectly safe gun, they modified it, and then they showed how they dropped the gun and it's no longer drop safe. And they primarily did that in order to generate views, in order to take up on the trend. And I have absolutely zero respect for that. And yeah, so hopefully that answers that quite a bit more. Yep. I will also say, so I mean, Chris brings up a great point. I mean, I also have a friend who did a video on a product, so he got the gun, and then the company basically went after him, or they almost basically wanted to sue him over it. And they're like, well, how dare you release a bad video, et cetera, et cetera. I personally haven't had any issues with this. I personally haven't had issues with those companies. And honestly, one of the ones that I would say I was like, I did a couple of videos, and I did one video in particular about like when Taurus had the issue with the safety on the G2Cs, when it came out that you can manipulate the gun so that the safety shows that it's engaged, but the safety is not actually engaged. And I got hammered from both sides. I got called a Taurus fanboy, and I got called a Taurus hater in the exact same video. So I know I did a good job there. But honestly, I was like, okay, I doubt I'm ever going to get a gun from Taurus ever again. I was shocked that, so when I sent that video to Jacob, who was the marketing company who was handling PR and marketing for Taurus at that time, and they're like, they passed it on. They say, hey, you know what? Thanks for the feedback. We appreciate that you were being fair with this, and we're going to get this addressed. I'm like, holy shit. But like, they're still not going to send me any guns. And then all of a sudden, we're like, hey, do you want to help launch? Do you want to, we're launching this new gun. Do you want to do a launch video for it? I'm like, abso-freaking-lutely. Same thing with my conversations. So for example, like there's a bunch of Ruger guns that I've had, and there's some videos I made like factual mistakes, and they're like, they didn't want me to pull the video or anything else like that. We're like, hey, just want to FYI, if you can post like a comment or correction, just wanted to let you know that it's not as you described it. And I'm like, I have so much respect for that. But I do know that there are smaller companies that if you say anything bad about them, you are never getting any product from them ever again, or they get like extremely defensive about it. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with a bunch of those. I mean, one of the ones I will give credit to, Arkin, for instance, like I did a number of videos on Arkin, and they did have massive quality control issues, and they never gave me a hard time over it, but they did appreciate that I came by and gave them a second chance, and we were able to discuss those issues. So I honestly, I didn't expect that. I thought that they would like have a lot of issues. Nope, they didn't. So yeah, but there are a lot of companies out there who will hold a grudge against you, or they'll outright go after and sue you. Yeah. Well, okay, you can replace the echelon, and you can put in a lot of other products in there as well. I would say, so I have never shot the echelon. I did play with it, but I mean, the trend is, I mean, like a lot of the Springfield products, let's put this, I would say in particular, the two biggest ones, okay, I would say two biggest ones and one runner up is, so you have the Springfield Rimfire 2020, and because it's a rimfire, I don't think a lot of people catch on to it, but like you had the people who released the videos, they over-promised, under-delivered, and they're better guns for the money. The other one is obviously the Prodigy. I think the quality control on the Prodigy was atrocious. And then the other one is the Helion, which had like the massive fireball issues and all of that stuff. Every single one of those launch videos, there's never anything bad said about those. And it's because a lot of them, it's like, look, it's like Springfield is very searchable content. So whether you're getting paid by them or not, it's like being one of the first to launch for a big brand, there's a lot of perks to it. I mean, there's definitely a lot of benefits to it. But the fact that Springfield has a very healthy marketing budget, yeah. Great point on that. Nice. I love you too. But I will say, for the price point, the CZ600 definitely has it beat. And yes, Mr. Anarchy Outdoors is an IT person as well. Yep. And that's why I'm a huge supporter of that. Buzz, thank you for joining. Let me know on the video quality. It should be good. Ooh, somebody's being a little feisty today. That is going to be a good challenge. I would say I would have no issues with that with my Gucci 1022. Or so we're going to have 3 Ruger rimfires on the channel that I started working with. So the Ruger American rimfire, Ruger American rimfire long range target, and the Ruger precision rimfire. They'll easily do this. The Springfield, it's going to be really, really, really tough. Like I said, I mean, I'm literally at 50 yards, I'm getting 2-inch groups with match ammo, with like Ely match ammo. The only one that actually shot close to 1 inch was the CCI standard velocity. Wait, this thing just went back through the comments. Okay. Inland. Okay, so that's what it is. Actually, it was inland. Thank you, guys. So the Max 9. So the Max 9, it was interesting. They raised the prices on those, but personally, I would still recommend like the Security 380 over the Max 9. I think the Max 9 is not bad. It's not a bad gun, but my daily carry is actually a Ruger LCP Max. And if you didn't want a pocket carry, then I would say the Security 380 is a really nice gun. Yeah, absolutely. So my issue with the high points is never like necessarily, I mean, I think they got the reliability out of the way. So my 2 issues is like, it's a little bit more of a sloppy fit and finish, number 1. And number 2 is because it's a direct blowback design. So I just got diagnosed once again with tendonitis in here. And I'm like, I'm not getting a freaking cortisone shot again. But if I shoot like a direct blowback gun, I have like it instantly, and like because I have shoot in like this type of a position, all of the blowback directly goes right for my wrist, and it hurts like a mofo. And only because you're a channel member, I love you. Aaron, I want you to answer this one. So what beats a Tika CTR at a 1K range? So if Aaron was on here, I know we had this discussion before. I did ask him about the CTR. So the CTR is the one in the tactical Timmy chassis. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the Tikas are nice, but like you don't need a Tika to go shoot 1,000 yards. I mean, like look at Bryce, who runs the Long Range Shooters of Utah channel, where we have the Milk Truck Challenge. There's a guy on there who took a factory barreled action Ruger American Predator in 6.5 Creedmoor, and he hit at a milk jug at a mile with a stock factory gun on his 3rd shot. So shooting 1,000 yards, it's not that difficult. It truly isn't. I mean, Tikas are nice for smooth and all that stuff, but honestly, I mean, like, I think for the money, like that CZ600 is going to be pretty cool. And if somebody develops a chassis for it, it's going to be a sleeper, especially if CZ gets off her ass and starts marketing that gun. You beat me to it. And besides the member-only giveaways. Or your own custom product. Ooh, Aaron, a Ruger Precision rifle. A Ruger Precision rifle is a damn good gun. Yep. And so this is actually, I wish Bullets for Bucks Steven was on here, because I kind of give him crap for this, but like, I would never air my dirty laundry in public. And within our content creator group, there are certain people, I mean, I'd say for most of us, it's now a full-time gig, but it's not even necessarily the income that is from YouTube or the check that comes from YouTube, but rather it is the money that can be derived because we are on YouTube. And so Steven kind of brought up a great point. So, I mean, his channel now, even though it's 100,000 subscribers, because he did a bunch of shorts, but I mean, he has thousands of videos, and he spends a ton of money on producing those videos. So even if somebody sent a gun, it doesn't compensate for the time. So I mean, there's the actual hard cost that it takes for you to go out to the range. So let's say, for example, for me, if I want to go test something at a 500 or 600, 700 yard range, it's an hour and a half from where I am, and it's 100 miles in each direction. So it's 200 miles, and generally that basically can cost me $60 in gas in a gas guzzler. So $60 in gas, plus, let's say it's going to be your targets, your ammunition, and things like that. Sometimes if it's a new launch, I do get ammunition, but that's primarily, like, for example, like when I got the shotguns, they sent ammo. If I'm getting a gun from a company for review, they don't send ammo. And like sometimes I would get it from Hornadies, and more often than not, you don't. And unless you have those connections, you don't get that ammo, you don't get that support. So you're going to be spending hundreds of dollars in ammunition, especially if it's something like, let's say, a 6 Creed, or like any of those Weatherby cartridges, or anything like Nosler cartridges, 300 Win Mag, 300 PRC, 7 PRC, things like that, especially during a time where it was like $50 a box or whatnot. And the thing with it is, so even though, okay, well, don't you hand load? Yes, but here's the kicker. In order for the review to be more or less standardized, it's not necessarily fair in order to do a review with hand loads when the vast majority of people are not going to be able to get or buy the exact same loads. So that's why we go and get factory ammunition in order to do it. So when you add all of that stuff up, so just the fixed cost of stuff that went out there, you're easily talking $300-400 in cost to go test something that doesn't include your camera equipment or anything else that you might need. It doesn't include a drone that you shoot down or a camera that you shoot down. It doesn't cost any of that stuff. And then, depending on the type of edit that you do, so let's say, for example, it's the time. So everyone's work process is going to be a little bit different. So the one that I have pretty much standardized on is, so let's say, for example, I get a scope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this to a gun. I'm going to go out to the range. I'm going to play with it. I'm going to record the first impressions. I'm going to do some B-roll and stuff and kind of formulate my thoughts. I'm then going to go home. I'm going to take 2 hours to plan out and script out a video. Then I'm going to go back to the range. I'm going to record the video. Then I'm going to go home, and then it's going to take me anywhere between 5 and 10 hours to edit the video and then publish it and so forth. So all in, it might take someone anywhere between 10 to 20 hours in order to do the video. So the question is, okay, well, what's a fair wage and how do you actually do it? So it might, at a reasonable wage, things like that, it might really, it might be $500 to $1,000 in costs, both tangible and intangible, in order to do a video. So nothing is necessarily free. And let's say, for example, if you're getting sent a product, I mean, it's one thing. Let's say, for example, if they're going to send you a scope that costs $1,500, it's completely different if somebody's sending you something on loan or whatnot. Now, in the beginning, it is going to be a little bit different, because when you have a smaller channel or nobody knows who you are, here's the kicker. If you're a bigger company, you're going to get anywhere between 500 to 1,000 requests every single day from supposed influencers who want you to send them a gun or cents for stuff. So when you're starting out, you're largely left to the point where you are happy to get something on loan, or even, let's say, for example, if you get free product, you have that. But the way I kind of looked at it as well is, okay, well, what's the win-win, or who's getting more out of it? Even right now, let's say, for example, if Ruger or Taurus or a major company came knocking on my door and basically said, hey, we're launching a new product. Are you interested in doing a video for it? I would absolutely say hell yes, and I don't need to get paid for it, because I put the value on, let's put it this way, they don't need me, I need them. They can easily get somebody else to create content for them, but I need them in terms of, it is, by being a launch video, it's going to expose you to people you generally are not going to be able to reach naturally, from people who are going to be searching for a particular product. Now, if it's a smaller company or something that's going to be it's going to be like minutia, or like something like deep into the woods, yeah, I'm definitely creating more value for them. Or at the same time, let's say, for example, you have a company that reaches out, they might have a really small channel, or, okay, let's say, for example, you have an importer and they're starting to import like a particular rifle, but you don't have any presence. I'll be like, okay, well, it's a cool rifle, but I'm not going to get anything out of it, because number one, no one's searching for the gun anyway. It's not going to drive more views. And the value that I'm providing, between being basically the production crew and creating a video, plus the publicity and the audience that they're getting by being on my channel, is going to be far more worth more than the value I receive if I get your gun, even if I get to keep it. And then it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this later on? So it's all basically going to be a balancing act. And that's why, like, you got to look at it on a one-on-one basis. I mean, yeah, we have to value everything that we do. I kind of do go a little bit from the perspective, okay, I need to make sure it's a win-win-win for everybody. So it needs to be a win for me, it needs to be a win for the company, it needs to be a win for the audience. And the way I define a win for the audience is, it's going to be a good video, it's going to be educational, and you're going to get something out of it. And that's particularly why, if it's a shitty product, I'm just not going to do it, because I don't think it's a win for the audience, unless I'm preventing you from making a colossal mistake, such as you have a shill army that's presenting a product which is like amazing, but in reality, it's garbage. Do companies that pay for All right, we're back. I promise I will get a dummy battery for this Panasonic camera and switch it out. So I think I basically covered most of it. So at the very least, your bigger companies, so I'm going to break this down. Your bigger, more professional companies, and this is both in the gun world and outside of the gun world, and I would almost kind of say that the influencer economy is much more mature outside of the gun world rather than in the gun world. But in general, if somebody's paying you for a product, and I'm not even going to say for a review because it's no longer a review at that point, it's an advertisement. They will, at the very least, give you a media brief, which is going to highlight the main talking points. And if you ask them, or let's say, for example, if it's going to be for like a short role or whatnot, they might literally fly you out to do a video, and they will tell you word for word, verbatim, what they want you to say. In the gun world, I don't think we've had anything like a written script for somebody, with the exception of a few 100% paid for advertisements, but those are pretty crystal clear. The vast majority of the gun tubers who do get paid in the gun world, and let's say, for example, like in my case, anytime I'm launching a product and they send it out, they absolutely send a talking point sheet. But because I don't take money from them, I basically kind of take, okay, good. Okay, I will absolutely look at the talking points and the competitive features to kind of see who they're targeting with that audience, and I will bring it up. But if let's, for example, like generally the media briefs, they will highlight the main features, the facts, and for whom the product is targeted. But if it's written, or for example, if you're getting a check, they will tell you explicitly what you must cover in the video. So unpaid, they'll give you talking points that you can or can't, that you can or you don't have to take. If it's a paid video, unless you negotiate it out, they do give you talking points they want you to have. And then again, it really depends on the type of money that you're talking about and how the deal is structured. They will at least want an approval, and they'll give you specific features that they want you to cover. So hopefully that answers the question. Has Monstrum Tactical ever reached out to you? Yes. I actually did a lot of videos for them that are on Amazon. I have not done YouTube videos on YouTube, but I do think they serve a point, and I do have a couple of videos planned for them. A couple of those videos are supported, but I actually approached Monstrum with the video idea. They didn't approach me on this one. And I kind of basically told them, hey, this is what I want to do. And the whole premise with that is we're going to see how cheap of a scope we can get away with. And we're literally going to be comparing side by side. They're like a $200 scope, a $500 scope, and a $1,000 scope, and so forth. But let's put it this way. They definitely improved. They do have some good stuff. And I would say they're no different than the company that you represent, in full disclosure as well. So, I mean, let's put this: every OEM, they either make good products, they make good products, they make shitty products, etc. I think for the price point, they make a lot of really competitive products as well. Okay, Chris, thank you for sharing your experience. Awesome. Yeah, so they have started reaching out to more creators. I definitely did notice that. I will say, kind of like along the same line, so I did have one of their scopes mounted to a rifle that I was selling in a store. And for somebody who's never noticed one of their brands, they looked at it, they took it deer hunting, they loved it, and were like, wow, this is really, really, really clear optics. Okay. Hawk Optics, we've actually done videos with at ShotShow. They have done a number of stuffs. I mean, I would basically, I don't think they're super competitive right now because they do have a two-tier distribution system. So they don't make it themselves, but then they basically then sell it for retailers as well. And they don't have the pull that a larger company does. So let's say, for example, like a Hawk first focal plane reticle rifle scope that they're selling for $1,000, you can get the same thing for 500 for other brands. So here's the thing. So like Monstrum has the $15 set of rings, the premier rings. I have them on, wait, here we go. I have them on a $15 rings on a $150 scope. The premium rings are actually really solidly made. They're pretty nice rings. Torques all around. The only thing you're really giving up is, number one, they are Chinesium. And number two is that the finish on them is not great, but functionally they're fantastic, and it's the same type of rings that other manufacturers private label for a lot more money. That is none of your damn business. Actually, so most of my ammo, I have it separated out into, let's say, for example, like rimfire stuff. I keep it in airtight, like ammo boxes, and that's simply a lesson that I learned from being flooded 3 times. 2 times by accident. 1 time it was an act of God. Well, act of 83 years. So I do keep them in waterproof boxes. The other ammo, generally, I run, honestly, like on the handgun stuff, I run fairly lean. So I keep just enough factory ammunition in order to do reviews and videos. But the vast majority of my ammo capacity is I have enough primers and powder and bullets in order to make everything. Yeah, so 350 is actually a really good price point on it. And James, bad boy, bad. Although it's a possibility. I still think it's the keyboard on the computer. I have like horrible posture when I'm sitting down, like I'm like tilted this way when I type on the computer. So the Max 9 is, and the joke of it is, I think apparently they do say they named it after me, but I don't buy that. So the Max 9 is $350 or so right now, in which case it's a really good value. The problem is a lot of the guns that they came out with, the prices during the skyrocketed, so they raised them up. But if it's coming back down to reality right now, it's a very good value for the gun. But said personally, because I'm a huge proponent of pocket carry, I carry the LCP Max with me. Okay. The issue is the CTR stock. So I guess we're talking about the Tikka. Well, the other thing with the Tikka is that as a proprietary scope base, or like you can't replace it in there. Amazing point. Thank you, Corey. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's harder to find a range that you can shoot 1,000 yards than it is to be able to find a gun that's capable of shooting 1,000 yards. So I'm going to probably do a separate video on it, but one of the biggest things that we've had in the gun industry, I'd say over the last 10 years, is the fit and finish on a lot of the guns definitely has gone down. However, so talking to the engineers at Savage and talking to the engineers at Ruger, so for instance, like Ruger doesn't have any gunsmiths. They have people who put the guns together. The vast majority of their time and experience is spent on making sure that the production quality is good on the parts. So concentricity on the barrels, the quality in the materials, et cetera, is going to be there. So that's why the Ruger Americans, for instance, they're not super smooth feeling rifles, but they shoot really, really, really well. And that's because the barrels are extremely concentric, especially versus some of the other stuff that comes down the pike. Now, that's why a lot of those guns, it's fairly easy to be sub MOA, and that's all you really need in order to shoot steel plates at 1,000 yards. And it's only if you want to go into a lot of the competitive shooting circles where you need to be closer to half MOA, that's where you really need to spend a ton of money. It's almost the same thing like with optics, even for instance. Like you can now get a decent first focal plane reticle rifle scope for $500. 10 years ago, you weren't able to do that. Same thing with a lot of the rifles. I think pretty much any factory type gun, with the exception of the Mossberg Patriot, the Ruger Springfield Rimfire. A lot of those guns, generally, as long as it has a heavy enough contoured barrel, you're able to put together sub-MOA groups, unless it's a Christensen or unless it was a Bergara that was put together during siesta time. I have to secure one specifically for that. We're going to have one very, very shortly. Nice! At what distance was it? All right, so I shot a Delta 5 Pro right around the same time. I thought it was a really good gun, but I think it was a little bit smoother than the Ruger Custom Shop RPR. But I think the Custom Shop RPR is a fantastic gun. I mean, it's consistent. It's close to half MOA for me most of the time. Aaron, what's the best pre-fit barrel? I would say I hate the word best because it really depends on best for the money or like best for a particular gun, and some barrel makers are not going to make them for whatnot. I would say Preferred Barrel Blanks makes a really good pre-fit. I like Patriot Valley Arms, which is here locally as well. If you're looking for carbon fiber, I definitely like OMR, Oregon Mountain Rifle Company. Fantastic. I do have a custom action. I am going to do that in a 7 PRC. Yes, I did. Ooh. I will try to get one from Daniel Defense. Now, if he's still here, I was frozen. All right, I guess you guys are still watching, so I'm still here. Any chance of reviewing? So either I will try to get Ryan's gun the next time I come see him, or Ryan can do a video of his gun. He has a very nice Delta 5 Pro, or if he can hook me up with somebody at Daniel Defense, I would love to try one. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic gun. Once again, it's going to be for the price point. My advice for small channels starting out: first, make sure channel numbers are not as big of a deal as one might think. If you're good at talking, yep. So the one thing that most people don't realize is right now a lot of the subscriber numbers are vanity metrics, largely because we have shorts. And Chris, we should do a live stream on this for a lot of the newer streamers. Second on seek out newer, smaller companies at first. Absolutely. So this kind of goes back to, okay, you need to have a win-win relationship. If you approach, let's say, for example, if I'm a small-time YouTuber and I approach Daniel Defense and I'm like, hey, can you send me your new Tactical Timmy AR? They're going to be like, who are you and what value does this provide? Or same thing, let's say, for example, if you approach Loophole and be like, hey, can you send me your $2,000 scope? But so let's say, for example, like when I was starting out, the two companies I had success with were Sightmark. They sent me a scope on loan, and Hala, they sent me a rifle on loan because once again, no one really covered them, and they're able to help out, and it was truly a win-win all around, and you just kind of started growing from there. Granted, I did have a huge unfair advantage, and that's because of my past in the financial services industry. I knew the CEO, CFO, COO, and the board of directors of Ruger, and that is how I get Ruger guns. Do companies suggest what ammo shoots best? So here's the thing. I think, so if Steven was on here, he had an issue with his Bergara, and they basically told him what shoots best with it. let's say, for example, like with Ruger, they basically just tell me shoot whatever the hell you want. They don't basically say, hey, this is what's going to shoot the best or not. I think with some manufacturers, they might send you a sheet of what they tested with. I think it's going to be more common with smaller manufacturers who are more worried about it. So I think kind of like one of the biggest things is if you're a larger company, you know that your guns are going to be used with a whole bunch of different stuff. And it's generally, so I'm talking about unpaid videos, or like where they're not sending you, they might send you the gun, but they're not sending you a check. Your larger companies are going to have less restrictions rather than smaller companies. I have like run into some situations which I didn't take up, but basically the smaller company wanted me to do like a glowing thing, or like, okay, well, we need you to use this and this and this and that. The only time that I've come close to that is with the Ruger 5.7, where on the media brief, they did send out an email that basically said, hey, if you're going to mount an optic on this, because the 5.7 by 28 cartridge is so like recoiling, use the heavier 40 grain ammo or whatnot. But that same information is also in the manual. So that's basically as close to it as I can find. But otherwise, no, I've never had anybody basically tell me use this ammo or this stuff shoots the best. Oh, wow. The chat just scrolled up inadvertently. Okay, we did that. Nice. Nice. Camera died, ATF raid. Now, so when I'm streaming with the Panasonic, I have to replace the batteries. I don't power it through the USB. On the Sony stream, so like the stuff that we did before, I had dummy battery for it. So I just had that power directly from it. Yeah, well, but it's not surprising. So the Hawk girl, whose video was she in? So funny story with this one. I had a video scheduled with Hawk at ShotShow. We had it scheduled for like the beginning of the morning on like day 2 or 3. I come to the booth and she's like, oh my God, it's so early. I don't feel like I'm ready for a video. I'm like, okay, were you partying the night before? And like, I didn't get a response, or that's what I was thinking in my head, but that's probably what happened. And it was too early for her. And by the way, she's the head of marketing for Hawk. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'm going to come back. I come back at the end of the day. Oh my God, it's already so late in the day and I don't feel comfortable doing a video. So I'm not at all surprised that she is no longer at the company. So your best bet if you want to get hired by a company is you come hang out with one of us and you go to ShotShow or you go to an industry event. And you have a kit of stuff that you've put together for these companies. Spade Dynamics, interesting. So for the Ruger Precision Rifle in particular, I would say if you're fine with 6.5 Creedmoor, White Oak Armament, they make fantastic barrels. They have a couple of different ones. They have great prefits, and they're going to shoot lights out, and you're not going to spend a ton of money. And if you know anything about AR barrels, White Oak Armament is the shit. You got to ask the hot chick company out, though. Be confident. You never know. Sometimes they can hit it off with a big company, even as a small channel. I was talking about the hot chicks. I was actually going to answer this comment. So there's somebody in one of our Discord servers that desperately needs to go to ShotShow, and we would introduce him to some girls. But yes, Chris is just bringing the fire. We're going to have this discussion. All right. We can talk offline about this. I definitely don't want to get my channel banned. I will just leave as a Jew and knowing people who work for the IDF and all of that stuff. I'm completely dumbfounded how they would be surprised by this planned and this organized of an attack. I would say it's deplorable, the loss of life and everything that's happening. I'm not denying that they're being attacked or anything else like that. I do believe that there are a lot of people in the Israeli government who wanted to be attacked in order to make a dirt lot out of Gaza and the West Bank. They were looking for this opportunity. I fully believe that they let it happen on purpose. I mean, keep in mind, guns sell. I do think it was a bad take for their Merkava tanks to be destroyed. And there's videos of Palestinians stealing at least 3 or 4 F-16s that were on the runway were being driven away. Yeah. I do think that it's a really bad time to be Zelensky because he's no longer the star of the show. And this could all be in order to take everyone's attention away from that clusterfuck as it is over there. Don't you dare. I think I'm making progress. 11:32. Yes, I am. I'm making. Nice. Okay, yeah. So, Anarchy Outdoors. They have white oak armament barrels in stock. Ta-da! I caught up. I might have missed or skipped some, but I definitely caught up. All right. So on that note, I have 2 other things for you. So there were 2 questions. One of them was asked on a recent video, and I wanted to address it in this one. So the question is, why do we catch brass? So there's a question on the videos, like when we're ejecting the spent brass on the bolt, we try to catch it, or we eject it really slowly. And the comment was along the lines of, well, we're doing it in order to cover up like bad ejection on the rifle or whatnot. And because particularly that was on a Savage axis, and Savage is well known to have like really shitty ejection, I can see how that comment was brought up. So the reason why I do it, number one, it looks cool. Kidding. I'm sure there's some people who actually do that. The other ones is particularly if I'm using hand loads when I'm ejecting the round, is I want to look at that piece of brass. And if you're just like ripping it out and it flies somewhere else, you're not going to be able to see it. And if you're doing load development, it's absolutely critical to look at each and every piece of brass. So you're looking at expansion marks, you're looking at any marks on the brass, you're looking at the primer, whether it's being flattening, whether it's cratering and whatnot, to see if you're pushing the limits on load development or not. So it's primarily already just a habit that I'm going to be doing that. Now, let's say, for example, if I'm a war zone or whatnot, yeah, I'm going to be really running that bolt in order to really get it out there. But if I'm just in a range environment and if I'm not on a clock, I'm gently going to get that round out, especially if it's a controlled round feed action, because at the ranges I shoot, it's the polite thing to do in order to pick up your brass. So I don't want it flying all over the place. And if I am going to be reloading that brass, let's say, for example, if I'm shooting 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, 300 PRC, 6 ARC, that brass is damn valuable, and I want every single piece of it. So that's the reason why I work it slowly and get that brass out. Aaron, do you have a break recommendation for a 7 PRC with a thick barrel? Okay, so that was that one. And the other one, and I want to hear from the gallery, how far do you drive to the range? So this is particularly for people like in the band states. So if anybody, let's say for example, like lives in New Jersey or New York, and you have like really crappy ranges in that area or you're limited, well, if you can drive an hour to get to a free state and shoot in free America, well, wouldn't you? So I do have ranges within 15 and 20 minutes of me, but I generally, for example, if I want to shoot 700 yards, I need to drive 90 miles. If I want to go shoot 1,000 yards, I need to go to upstate New York, and that's 2.5 hours. I think that's 110 miles. And that's generally considered normal. The other one is like for matches. If you're shooting a match, I know there's some match people. I mean, like we routinely driven an hour and a half to 2 hours to go shoot a local match. And if it's a major match, you can easily be driving 5, 6, 7, 8 hours in order to get one of those matches. So to me, I would be okay driving for a better range experience, particularly if that range is, let's say, for example, is going to be less crowded or have more features. But I guess I can totally understand if someone just shooting just handguns that they would just go to a local range. But even let's say, for example, if it's a difference between a half hour to an hour, I get it. But if you have a better range experience, let's say, for example, like, I guess, do you go to the range in order just to blast a bunch of rounds for the gun and then go pack up and go home? Or do you go there basically as a date with yourself or a date with your friends, just to go and hang out and talk to people and take your sweet ass time with it? So for me, I would say like my regular short range, let's say 300 yards, is going to be a 45-minute drive. And then the range where I film a lot of my newer videos is an hour and a half. Wow. So 250 miles. So why is that? Are there no ranges closer to you or no range in particular? And then we have the flip side. Drive to the range. How about walk? Literally 25 yards tops. And that's if I don't want to just shoot off my back porch. So you literally live next to a range. Okay. And then you're lucky. Okay. James, here's your answer. Strike Without Warning or Area 419 Hellfire match. And he sells them both on Anarchy Outdoors website. The Area 419 break is fantastic. It is a nice big beefy break. It is available on Anarchy's website, and then become a channel member, hit the join button, and then there is a extra discount on those. Okay. So I have a private range 20 minutes, 1K, and 40 minutes, 1.2 miles. So that's basically fairly lucky. I mean, like, not a lot of people kind of have that ability. I drive 3 minutes for a 200-yard range, an hour for 1,100 to 2,300. I will drive 3 to Price, Utah range. What's the price range in Utah? I have never heard of Pig River. So realize that I'm easily an hour from basically anywhere of significance. Golosa Shoot House Sporting Clays Course, 1,500-meter range with tower, an hour and 3 in different directions. Okay. So I will say the people who, like, if you're a gun tuber, having a range close by is definitely going to be helpful, and I envy almost the people who can shoot in their backyard. Definitely appreciate that. So we do have a poll on that. So go vote on that. Hit the community tab and we go there. And we hit the 2-hour mark. Okay. Fantastic. All right. So that covered what I had. So let me do a final check on if they did the video. Nope, still not reviewed. Hopefully tomorrow. So we do have a video that's going to be out tomorrow. It's going to be out later today for channel members on the CZ600. And then at the end of the week, I will have that video on the Savage Switchback. So I re-recorded it for the third time. Now, basically, a lot of it is already edited. I'm going to have the rest of it up. And then we're going to get really working on that. Chris, thank you for the super chat. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you for the support. And obviously, I value our friendship, and I value all the support and advice you give, and not just me, but all the gun tubers in the community as well. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. We also have Bending Ballistics, Anarchy Outdoors. Make sure you subscribe to their channels as well. I think I got all the gun tubers. Oh, and Ryan is now having his channel as well, Boom Hydrographics. Make sure you sub to his. And if you haven't hit the like button on this yet, why the hell haven't you? And obviously, I'm sure everyone's pretty much subscribed to this as well. Michael, thank you for the questions. Thank you to the person from Brazil. And we are going to do this again next Sunday. Oh, Bullets for Bucks, yes. But Stephen left. And Bullets for Bucks as well. So, thank you as always. Thank you everybody for joined in. And I will see you in the next video. Hopefully tomorrow we'll do a premiere on that. Otherwise, our next live stream is going to be next Sunday. And hopefully we'll have a guest or two on. Good night.